Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay, here to talk a little bit about this controversy that's going on with rapper Lizzo. I haven't been online in a very long while, you know, just letting stuff marinate, letting stuff, um, happen that I really want to talk about. And one of the things I really want to talk about is this controversy over alleged ableism with rapper singer Lizzo. Apparently, Lizzo came out with a song "Girls" without the I. It's spelled Girls, and in this song she uses the word spaz. In fact, she says, "Hold my bag, bi, before I spaz out." And a lot of disabled activist community, disabled activists in the activists in the disabled community are a little outraged about this, upset about this situation, about her use of this word spaz. She's changed it now, but it brings up an interesting conversation about the word uh, spaz. What does it mean? What's the origins of it? And how I feel about it as a person, not only with a disability, as you can see in my wheelchair in the background, but also with the specific disability that it refers to, and that is a form of cerebral palsy called spastic diplegia, which the word spaz is short for. So basically, this word spaz is short for spastic diplegia. Now, with cerebral palsy, there are two different types of cerebral palsy, two main different types of cerebral palsy. One is ataxia, which is an excessive looseness of the muscles, and the other is spastic cerebral palsy, which is the most common form of cerebral palsy, in which causes muscle tightness and lack of muscle control in the individual. Now, it can affect either one limb, like is which is called spastic hemiplegia, two limbs, which is diaplegia, or four limbs, which is called spastic quadriplegia. Not the exact same thing that many people may be familiar with in terms of quadriplegia um, paralysis, but basically it is caused, like every other form of cerebral palsy, by either too much oxygen to the brain at birth or a lack of oxygen to the brain at birth. And because of this brain defect, your muscle controls and your limbs are affected. So the most common form of cerebral palsy is this form right here, spastic cerebral palsy. And where this word comes from, it's a British word. It's commonly a British slang. And because, again, people with this form of cerebral palsy sometimes don't have control of their motor skills, a lot of times their arms or their legs will move out without them thinking about it. Because with cerebral palsy, um, when you want to move around, it's basically a conversation between your brain and your limbs going on as you just want to move around from one step to another. And sometimes you can't control it. So sometimes, say for example, if it affects your arm may move without you wanting to move your arm, or your arm may not move without you wanting to move your arm, which is one of the reasons why, especially when it affects the lower extremities, many people with cerebral palsy, this form of cerebral palsy, cannot walk because they cannot, the messages to their brain that tells their limbs to walk cannot get there on time, if they can get there at all. So the word evolved, as words tend to do, to mean somebody that acts crazy, somebody that wiles out, somebody that acts uncontrollably, because people would see that the individuals with cerebral palsy, which at that time in the early 1800s was called Little's disease, named after the man who first diagnosed it in a children's hospital in the 1800s, William Little. And they would see that these patients with spastic cerebral palsy, would just move their limbs uncontrollably like this. So people would say, stop spazzing out, stop being a spaz. And eventually, as the word migrated to America, it just came to mean wilding out. But in the United Kingdom, where the word originated, it still has the same negative connotation. And Lizzo's music is broad based. Lizzo's music is enjoyed by plenty of people around the world. And plenty of people around the world in the disabled activist community don't really understand why Lizzo, somebody who's always pushing body positivity and who's always pushing, self acceptance of herself with her weight, in regards to her weight, being a bigger woman, being a BBW, if you will, why she would be using this word to attack, people with other body images, particularly disabilities, with stuff they really can't control. So they're getting on her on Twitter, and she's accusing them of bullying her, putting her into a corner. Now, one thing I want to say about Lizzo, I like a little bit of Lizzo's music, and as you guys know, in 2019, I supported Lizzo, and I still support her as far as, her crusade for bigger women, because we need to represent the whole gamut of women's looks and men's looks, body positivity and self-esteem is an important issue for bigger people, just as it is for people with disabilities. And I also believe that Lizzo didn't know that the word has its origins in this. Many people are not aware of cerebral palsy, and if they are aware of cerebral palsy, they're not aware of the specifics of cerebral palsy, the different types of cerebral palsy, and the origins of this slur. Just like any other slur, be it ethnic, racial, religious, many people don't know the origins of slurs, where slurs come from, the N word, where it comes from, you know, um, words like the F word, derogatory for LGBT men, the D word, derogatory for LGBT women. These words have origins in other things that some asshole who just wanted to diss another person came up with in a sort of creative way. And we might not know the origins of the origins of the etymologies of these specific words. So if she didn't know, how can you really crucify her for something she didn't know? And the thing is, too, she wasn't really trying to get at y'all. She just had the presence of mind. She had the presence of mind later on to change the words. Other artists, like the Game and stuff, he didn't understand. He's like, "What the hell, spazzing out? That's just, wilding out, right? That's just, acting crazy." But no, this word does have origins in something more sinister when it comes to ableism. And yeah, Lisa says, she said, I never want to promote derogatory language as a fat black woman in America. I've been hurt. I've been, I've had many words used against me. I overstand. I overstand is something that a phrase that originated in Rastafarian lexicon. It's supposed to be a notch above I understand. So she's basically saying that she really understands it. You know what I mean? I understand the power of words the words can have. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. So that was a sincere apology, guys. I don't think she meant any harm by it. She didn't really mean anything against people with disabilities. I'm sure she has many disabled fans. I'm sure she has fans with cerebral palsy. I'm sure she has fans with spastic cerebral palsy. I mean, you know, it just seems with cancel culture, everyone is always out there to look for the next thing that another person is saying. Keep in mind that we're all human beings and we may not, you know, all of us are not walking encyclopedias of etymologies of words and what they mean in different places and different instances. So we're gonna slip up. We're gonna say something we shouldn't. But we should all have a forgiving nature. And remember, if you're a person with a disability and you never educate another person that is not disabled on your disability and why that word is hurtful to you and why what they say or do is hurtful to you, then you can't blame them really for being hurtful to you. You have a vocabulary, you have a mouth, you have intelligence. You can either articulate it yourself, why that makes you feel bad, or you can, nowadays in 2022, call up Google. And if you don't have the words, get it from Google or get it from Wikipedia. I've seen people advocate for themselves and articulate their feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And look, I'm not the best at articulating my feelings, thoughts, and emotions either, but I've seen people do it, with cerebral palsy, be great advocates for themselves with cerebral palsy that are nonverbal. Some of them they use dyno boxes, which are these electronic machines that speak on behalf of nonverbal individuals with cerebral palsy. You know what I mean? So, and they've been some of the most articulate people out there. You know what I mean? So, your silence is complicit in the misunderstanding and the mischaracterization of yourself. So, if you really want to educate people and they're willing to learn, you have to be willing to teach as well. Yeah, people were bullying her about her weight. Yeah, but if people are again with cerebral palsy and with disabilities, if people are willing to learn, you have to be willing to teach. If you're not willing to teach and you're not willing to educate, and if you can't do it yourself, point them in the right direction in Google or Wikipedia where they can learn if they want to learn, if they're open to learn. But if you're not open to teach, you can't expect. I always say this, guys. You cannot expect people to know everything. You know what I mean? People don't come out of their mom's womb knowing stuff. People don't come out of their mom's womb educated. You have to be educated by someone. You have to have someone, that shares that experience and that has experience with that or knowledge of in that particular area to shed light on that. You know, nowadays people want other people to know everything. People don't want other people to make mistakes. But unfortunately, in this life, guys, we learn by trial and error. There are many things that I've said and done that are ignorant and towards various groups that I regret today because I became more educated. I became more enlightened. You know what I mean? I don't know everything. I learn every day. And you got to remember, Lizzo is a human being. Lizzo probably has no exposure to people with disabilities and people with cerebral palsy. You know what I mean? Or anything like that. So be kind, be generous, and be understanding of where she's coming from as well. And bullying her about her weight because, she allegedly said a naughty word or whatever, a bad word, that's not fair, guys. You know what I mean? Because you're fighting fire with fire. You know what I mean? And she didn't mean it in a malicious way. She didn't say it in a malicious way. People are like people are being like that old Will Smith line from The Fresh Prince. Remember when he was like, "I shouldn't have to tell you. You should just know." How can I just know? How can I read minds? How can I know something and be educated on something and be enlightened on something that I have no experience of, no knowledge of, no exposure to? That's the way that the society thinks these days. People are not people. are not, especially they're supposed to be disability advocates. They're supposed to be advocates. And part of being an advocate for someone is educating others on, you know, their experiences and some of their limitations. You know what I mean? And me as a person with a disability, I feel happy and I feel proud when I educate others on, to the best of my ability, to the best that I can express it, on what my disability is all about, what it represents, and what it means to me. You know what I mean? And how it affects me specifically. Because I feel like I've enlightened people. I feel like I've educated people. And we know that's what I love to do here on this channel. That's the point of this channel. You know what I mean? So be patient with Lizzo, understand her, and understand others that, maybe using words like the R word or other types of words, um, with regards to disabilities, people with disabilities, like the C word or whatever. And um, don't be so quick to throw stones, because remember, he without sin cast the first stone. So remember, if you're throwing stones at Lizzo, make sure that you've never said something, even as a person with a disability, something out of turn or something that could be misconstrued as a racial slur, an ethnic slur, or a disabled slur towards another person with a disability. Because believe it or not, guys, I went to a school with students completely all with various disabilities, and believe it or not, people made fun of other people with disabled people make fun of other people with disabilities all the time. So don't think because somebody has a specific disability that they're complete angels or that they're completely enlightened or educated either. They're just as ignorant and as asshole. They can be just as ignorant or as asshole-ish as another person, that's able-bodied. So, you know, don't don't give them a pass on that. We all imperfect human beings. But anyway, guys, I don't hold it against Lizzo. I'm glad that she took the opportunity to educate herself, and I'm glad, now she knows something she didn't know. And when you know better, you do better. Peace, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The boy Jay is back in the game. Love you guys. Thank you, Lisa, for contributing. And again, I may do more of these videos on cerebral palsy. It's not something that I like to really talk about, but if it's something you guys really want to know about or hear about, I'm not a complete guru on it. I'm not educated as much as I should be, honestly, on it, but I lived with it for 37 years. Um, and uh, I know pretty much, surface level regarding it as I do. Peace. Love you guys. Thank you, Lisa, for contributing, and welcome back to the channel.